I'm Jimmy Bach, and this is History with Jimmy, along with our producer Chandler Holmes and our two local historians, Jake Bluda and Brian Caverly. And today we're here to talk about somebody that was well known through the community for a great number of years. His name was Bob Marshall, and I'm going to read what his son wrote up for us when we did the mixer banquet last Saturday. So it says, Robert Nathan Marshall, a.k.a. Bob, born October 27th, 1924, raised in Bethel Hill, PA. His father was a farmer and a one-room school teacher. His mother was a farmer's wife. William Leon Marshall and Anna Hartman Marshall were his father and mother. And as a young man, Bob was a roller boy at a local roller skating rink in Harveyville, which I didn't know there was a roller skating rink in Harveyville, so I learned something. His senior year, he quit high school for just a few months before graduation to join the Army. In the Army, he became a radio operator, was sent to France to fight the Germans. He was wounded by an artillery shell while giving important information during a fight. He was wounded in the ankle, but due to infections, he had 3 amputations. First his foot, then his calf, and then his knee. He was saved, sent home, and wore an artificial leg his whole life. He was sent home to recuperate in Atlantic City. He visited Atlantic City for 50-year celebration where he was honored for being in a picture of some soldiers on the boardwalk, and the Army could not identify him. And when he was there, he told them, well, I'm one of those soldiers. They asked him to speak to the crowd of soldiers that was there. After his operation, he went to Michigan for electronic training. That gave him the education for his career in TV repair. He worked for Edgar G. Scott Furniture Store in Shickshinny for many years, but in 1965 he opened his own business of TV sales and service, which he ran for 30 years. He married Catherine Manicus in 1946. They had 2 children, Georgia and Chris. They lived in Main Street in Shickshinny where they raised their children. And here's one of the things that I thought was the one that was really unbelievable. He became a justice of the peace before becoming the first district magistrate, and his judgeship duties lasted 46 years. He was active in his church, in the First Presbyterian Church, where he served as an elder for many years. He was always active in the community and was loved and respected by all. And you can tell that when somebody's elected for 46 years for the same office. That's almost unheard of. So at this time, we're going to turn it over to our 2 local historians, and whoever wants to speak first, and you guys tell your story about Bob. Many of them.
Well, I knew Bob all of my life, of course. I remember him coming to our house to fix the television that we had there, but you saw him in the community, and he was genuinely a nice man, a real gentleman. He was at JP. That was back in the days before district magistrates, the system we have now, came into effect. The old-fashioned JPs were not quite what the district magistrates are, but Bob was elected in the JP position for many years and then finally became a district magistrate. The position was basically the same, it was just that it had been created a little bit differently by the legislature later and called district magistrate. In any event, when I was a young lawyer, I did a lot of criminal work, which isn't necessarily criminal work. It was speeding tickets and misdemeanors and small things that usually were summary offenses that didn't require a jail sentence. That is most of what a JP or a district magistrate did. There were court cases where he would hear the case and then pass it on to the common pleas court if it warranted it. But I did a lot of the summary cases for clients in this area. And Bob was usually the magistrate or the JP. If it was around here, he definitely was there. He was always very, very professional. He was very fair. He didn't have a legal background such as a lawyer, but he had a background he learned being a JP and a magistrate. He conducted conducted his court very, in a very disciplined manner, and as I said, he was fair to all the parties. One of the things I remember is, and Jimmy had mentioned that he was an elder in the Presbyterian Church. Back in the days of the JPs and early in the district magistrate days, the judicial, the judges, the district magistrates, we would call them now, did not wear robes. Now they do. If you go to a district magistrate's hearing, you'll see the judge dressed in a robe. Back in the early days, they didn't do that. But Bob, being aware of the gravitas of a court hearing, thought that maybe that discipline should be imposed in his court. So he always did wear a robe. His robe was the choir robe he wore in the Presbyterian Church. I'm sure nobody knew that, but it wasn't the same as judicial robes. But, that was all part of his idea to give importance to the role that he had carried out.
Well, my thoughts on Bob is a little different aspect than Brian's here. But when you came into Shickshinny, where Bob's office, place of business, where he saw this huge Zenith TV sign, TV radio repair. And it was, kind of cool. I can remember red around the edges of it, and it had Zenith TV. I don't think most people would know what a Zenith is today. But anyway, and seasonal, Bob would play seasonal music. Christmas time you would hear Jingle Bells, White Christmas, and be all day long. And of course, any other holidays, Bob would be playing the appropriate music. So again, as Brian says, Bob was well respected, and I say, from us younger guys, a little bit almost feared. We don't want to go before this guy because he's the judge. Anyway, Bob was also very, very involved with the VFW and the American Legion. And the Memorial Day programs could not take place without Bob Marshall. Bob took care of the sound system, Stewart Sounds. And I don't know, it was kind of like a magical thing. Bob did his little thing up there in the cemetery, wherever he got his, I know it was off the battery of his car, I don't recall a generator, but Bob would set it up, and as he would set it up, we had to go ahead. So basically, the whole Memorial Day program at the cemetery depended on Bob and his sound system. And at the time, you can see these World War II veterans, as Bob was part of it. He was an artillery officer. And they really had a lot of pride in what they did. And as has been stated before, it was the greatest generation. Truly it was. And the local veterans would get together, and one of them that I recall with Bob was Willard Sorber. Willard was the chaplain. And he would start, he memorized all the prayers that were in the ritual book. And he would start off with a very deep, husky voice, and Father of us all. So, oh my God, this guy is real. He did the whole thing. But the other part of it was Catherine Marshall. Memorial Day was Poppy Day. And Catherine wore her red, white, and blue, and she had all these poppies. You never sold a poppy. Basically, it's a donation. You have a poppy, whatever you wanted to give. But who would refuse Catherine? I mean, it was almost, she came up with it. You did a poppy with her. You had to buy it. And she'd be, prior to that, in front of the bank. And as the parade would go through, she would walk the parade route with her poppies. So Bob and Catherine really were quite a tribute to this town. Truly were. So again, I say the feel he had for his country and his town, Bob was special, and so was Catherine. And the little things we'd have going at the Legion or the VFW, they were always taking part in it. I don't know, do you have more of that you recall?
Well, I'm just wondering, as I'm listening to you talk about how Catherine dressed.
Yes.
In a patriotic way, do you think that maybe that's where Jimmy got the idea for his clothing?
I'm not going to comment on that. He might have, but Catherine, in fact, you know what, she might have worked.
Yeah, was that, did you get that?
No, I just made it a point that what I wear this for is, I I have the ones with the flags and different ones, and, I wear this for the men and women that stood up and fought and died for this country, and the miners that worked and went into a hellhole every day, the women that worked in the apparel factories and stuff, because this is all about history, and this is what the FLT Museum is about, and that's why we're here today, and I'm glad I have these two local historians who actually initiated the start of the Historical Society. Wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for these two guys, and we're going to continue on doing stories, and I'm sure they'll have some other stories to do when we go do more episodes and stuff. So I want to thank Jake and Brian again for coming, and our producer, Chandler Holmes, for producing these episodes. This is episode 52. This is Jimmy Bach signing off. Thank you again, and please click the like and subscribe. We're now over 15,600 and some, and we need about 6 more viewers to boost us up on the viewing part of it. So thank you again for watching, and thank you, gentlemen, for coming and doing this.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Jim, that was very well stated.
Okay, thank you. Okay, producer?